UTPB offensive line coach Boone Feldt. Coach, talk a bit about what you've seen from the offensive line so far through almost 2 weeks of camp and what kind of improvement you've seen so far.
So far, I've seen a coachable group, and that's something I try to focus on early on, being coachable, having energy and enthusiasm. We've kind of got an offensive line manual. It really doesn't have a ton to do with offensive line play. It's more of being an offensive lineman and guys buying into that first before we can really work on technique and scheme. They've got to understand what it means to be an offensive lineman, and I've seen that group turn into that. For me, spring is important to have the whole group buy in, learn to be offensive linemen first, and then build off of that. So right now I think everybody's bought in. There's a couple guys on the fence, and they've turned the page really quick, and it's been easy, great group of guys. That's what I'm looking for right now, and that's what I've seen so far.
You talked about being coachable, and as part of that buying in, or what other qualities does that include?
Having energy and enthusiasm is a huge part for me, and it's not always outright energy and enthusiasm. Some guys are vocal leaders, some guys are lead by examples, but everyone needs to play their part within our group. Whether you're a returning starting left tackle or a third string center, you have a role to play, and you've got to understand it and buy into that. So many guys, they want to be the starters. Offensive line is a position that doesn't really rotate. The starters are the starters. Competition's competition. The group is only as good as the weakest link, especially at that position. And I think right now everyone's buying into the energy and enthusiasm, coming out to practice every day and getting better. That's all we can do, get better every single day, and we've done that so far.
Offensive line is widely known as one of those positions where it takes the longest for a group to come together and gel. What are the problems that, not necessarily problems, but challenges presented with starting a new team and coming into your third year? How have you seen that group kind of grow, and where are they at right now?
The biggest deal, first of all, and I've talked to everyone, I kind of had one-on-one meetings with them. Last year we had 2 true returning starters in the second year. This year we've got 7. Hopefully we've got some new guys that can come in and start. Next year we'll have 9 or 10. So we're building that progression of having returning guys. Having 7 returning starters is huge for our offensive line and our program in general. And in spring football, as you said, the progression, it takes a long time to build the position, and you got to figure out how to attack it as offensive line coach. Like I said, I start with the being coachable, having the energy, enthusiasm, buying into the group. That's the first phase of it, and then teaching them how to be offensive linemen, the basic movements of it. It's a tough position, and then they got to learn the scheme. They got to see different defensive fronts. So it does take the longest, in my opinion. I might be biased because I'm an offensive line coach, but it takes a long time to become a great offensive lineman. If you go watch 10-year vet NFL offensive linemen, they're working on stances, first steps, hand placement, and you go watch an elementary school team, they're working on stances, first steps, and hand placement. So it's a continuous progression. If you're not getting better every day as offensive lineman, you're getting worse. I mean, you can't just ride the bike and get back on it. You got to attack it every single day to get better.
Who's one person that stood out to you so far through 2 weeks?
I don't want to say one person. I will say that first group as one person has really stood out. The guys that started the last game for us, they're going to be tough to beat out right now. Those returning 5, it's our first year having a returning offensive line since we've been here. I mean, after that first year, we had guys come and go. Some guys have school issues, get kicked off the team. They weren't bought into that offensive line culture. We've got 5 returning starters that are good, that know how to play the position, that know how to play as a group, they know how to play for me. We can work well together. So I don't want to say one necessarily, but that returning 5 starting group that started that last game of the year is a good group right now.
What do you guys need to do as a position to be successful this year?
For us to be successful, we need 3 or 4 more guys to step up. Right now we've got some guys that can play. There's some things I want to do personnel-wise to make us better, move some people around. But in order for you to move someone on the offensive line, there's got to be someone to fill that void. You can't just take a tackle and move them to guard or guard to center without filling that spot with an equally talented person. So we've got to put more pressure on each other. From a skill set standpoint, we've got some guys creeping into that zone right now where they're starting to push people. But for us to be a great offensive line, you've got to have guys pushing each other. You can't just have a great starting 5. You need a great, right now I've got 15, you need a great 15. that third string guy needs to put pressure on the second string guy. The second string guy needs to put pressure on the first string guy. So if we can just continue to get better, stay bought in, and have leaders step up, that's going to be a huge role to play going into this next season.